Now it's time for the deprivation forecast. For those of you who don't already know, deprivation measures our social circumstances in the neighbourhood. The New Zealand Index of Multiple Deprivation has 28 indicators grouped into 7 domains of deprivation. They are employment, income, crime, housing, health, education and access to services. Hovering over Stewart Island, we can see that it's ranked 1,574 out of 5,558 in New Zealand, so it's not very deprived. However, this line plot shows that it has slightly elevated housing, health and education deprivation and very poor access to services. We've divided deprivation into 5 quintiles, with dark purple, quintile 5, representing the 20% most deprived areas in New Zealand. Light purple is quintile 4 and represents moderately deprived areas, and so on to quintile 1, which is coloured light grey and has 20% least deprived areas in New Zealand. As you can see, the current situation in the South Island is mainly fine, except for some light purple just north of Invercargill and the west coast. Most rural areas in the South Island are not very deprived. In the North Island, however, there's lots of deprivation on the east coast and in Northland. We can't see the cities at this scale, so let's zoom in. It's a real mix for Christchurch, I'm afraid. A swathe of high deprivation lies over Christchurch from Phillipstown to Bexley, and there are patches of quintile 5 in Addington, Hoon Hay and Broomsfield. These quintile 5 areas are surrounded by areas with quintile 3 or 4 deprivation, so there's no fair weather areas in Christchurch City until you get to the suburbs like Burnside, Russley or Strohan. In Wellington, most of the high deprivation occurs in Porirua, Lower Hutt and Upper Hutt, but there are patches in Wellington City and places like Kilburnie and Strathmore Park. While the North Shore and Central Auckland generally less deprived than average, and West Auckland has many deprived areas and South Auckland is almost uniformly dark purple. I think the situation won't change anytime soon unless we get serious about addressing the causes of deprivation. For example, let's look at what's behind the very high levels of overall deprivation in Te Kau. Employment, education and access deprivation in Te Kau are all quintile 5, and income, housing and health deprivation are all quintile 4. If these issues can be addressed effectively, the long-term forecast would improve. A strength of the IMD is its ability to drill down to see which of the 7 domains are driving deprivation in different areas, as it varies from region to region. Councils are using the IMD to allocate resources where they're needed the most. As part of the Waikato Plan, we demonstrated that over half of the neighbourhoods in South Waikato were severely deprived in terms of income, employment and education, but in Waitomo, the concerns are about health, education and access. Alcohol Health Watch has been working with community groups to object against new liquor stores opening in areas that are characterised by high levels of income deprivation or high rates of crime. And high schools around the country are using the IMD in the geography curriculum, so the forecast for the IMD's impact is looking promising.